He's back. Here's Zach Gelb.
It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on CBS Sports Radio. Let's chat some Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers, Denver Broncos, all the latest with James Palmer from the NFL Network, who I will say, out of all the guests that we've had on, could have the best Zoom setup. That is an awesome home studio that you have there, James.
I appreciate it. You know, I've been here in this basement for some time. Been down here quite a bit. So I think I've had some time to throw a couple of things together, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I actually have like teams give me shout outs where they're like, hey, you got a Cardinals
that guy's a legit reporter pretty
down
much.
There in the corner. You got it. And you know, trying to throw them out there, trying to make something look okay. You got to wear multiple hats in this business these days.
What is the best piece of memorabilia? Is that a photo actually of you, Travis Kelce, and Mahomes in the snow? Do I see that correctly?
Yeah, I was doing this interview with Travis Kelce, I think it was 2 years ago on the field at Arrowhead. Yeah, it wasn't last year. We weren't talking to anybody on the field. So, yeah, 2 years ago, Travis Kelce and I are doing this interview. Mahomes comes up, ruins the interview by hugging Kelce. We got to start over. We got to do it all over again. But, you know, in the process of ruining the interview, my producer, Leslie, did get a pretty good shot of the three of us down there on the field at Arrowhead.
James Palmer here with us from the NFL Network. If you do have Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock on the Broncos this year, and then we'll see who's going to be the starting quarterback, maybe you get to see both at different times of the year. What type of team do you think the Broncos have getting ready to enter 2021?
Well, I do know the brass in the building does believe that they can get double-digit wins, Zach, with the quarterbacks that they have on the roster, which is why they're not panicking. They are in a position, and we'll get to that, to go after, say, Aaron Rodgers, maybe Deshaun Watson, if anybody becomes available. But they do feel like they can get, if everything goes their way, 10 wins with the quarterbacks that are on their roster. And I think it's not far-fetched to think that, because if you look at what they did in the offseason, if you have a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, who's, you know, Carolina had a lot of issues last year. I did several of their games, but he completed over 69% of his passes. If he protects the football with the weapons that they have, with Cortland Sutton returning with him and Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant, and I think Javonte Williams was a great pick that could be the lead back for them with Melvin Gordon also there. And then the defense could be, some people around the league have told me, the best defense in football if everybody stays healthy. So if you complete passes, don't turn it over, and you play great defense, I'll bet the division's tough. You got the Chargers and you have the Chiefs twice, but they do think they can win double-digit games with who they have right now.
If it is Bridgewater or Locke, and you look at, we all know Kansas City's the best team in the AFC West, would the Broncos be to you that second best team, or do you go with the Chargers with Herbert and a new head coach? Does maybe John Gruden get it together here in your number 4 and actually be able to finish down the stretch with the Las Vegas Raiders?
I mean, this is a quarterback league, right? And so I have to put the Chargers ahead of the Denver Broncos when I did several of Justin Herbert's games last year, and they came up short late in a couple of those. The one in New Orleans jumps out at me off the upright. I was at the one in Tampa Bay where he lit them up for 3 quarters. So I'm going to say the Chargers are probably the second best team. And now I do think when you change offensive coordinators for a guy going into his second year, that's going to be a little bit difficult, but they had a really good draft, in my opinion. You got Derwin James coming back. You know, they did everything they could to make things better for Justin Herbert. I think Chase Daniel going there and the knowledge that he has of Joe Lombardi's system, I think is not talked about enough, of him being in the room over the next several months for Justin Herbert. You know, Jared Cook knows the system so well. So they've set him up to succeed. They've improved the offensive line. Everything they wanted to do this offseason was to make him better and make things easier on him. They've done that. Look at Corey Linsley at the center spot too, right? A guy that can make a lot more checks at the offensive line for them and call some things out. I think they're the second best team after the Kansas City Chiefs.
What were conversations from what you've heard? And I know the Packers keep on saying they're not trading Rodgers. They're not trading Rodgers right now. On draft night, it seemed as if the Broncos were the team if a deal was going to get done. And I didn't think a deal was going to get done on draft night. But were there some conversations from what you're hearing on draft night, James Palmer for the NFL Network? And did any of those conversations get anywhere between the Broncos and the Packers?
They didn't get anywhere, really, because what the Packers were, you know, we heard them say after day one of the draft is they weren't trading him. They weren't picking up the phone. They weren't negotiating with anybody by any means. So they couldn't go anywhere. Now, I know Denver was a team that really, after Mark Schlereth tweets out that the deal is almost done and everybody goes crazy, I'm texting Mike Silver, who's like right outside the war room in Denver, and I'm sitting in Jacksonville. We're like, who do we know between these two teams together? Let's get it. Let's start figuring it. And what we're finding out at NFL Network with all of us working on it was there was no really communication. But George Paton did what any reasonable general manager would start thinking about what would it take to land Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't think he's crazy to have that thought go through his mind when he looks at his quarterback situation and the rest of the roster that I just kind of, talked about and broke down. Yeah, it started going through their mind about we could start making these couple moves. We could possibly do this, package that. But that didn't go very far to my understanding at all because there was no dialogue, right? There was no back and forth between the Packers and Broncos. But I do think the Broncos are in a great spot to make a run at Aaron Rodgers. And it's mostly because they have the cap space, which in my belief would be that started a long time ago when they were thinking they could possibly make a run at Deshaun Watson, right? To start putting things in place to where you have the room to acquire that. So they still have that. They have the second most cap space in football. But at the same time, they don't have an expensive quarterback to unload. Right? If they want Jordan Love to be the quarterback in Green Bay, if they ever decide to move on from Aaron Rodgers and make him available, they're not going to want your expensive quarterback back in return. Well, Teddy Bridgewater, because of the way they did that deal, and the Panthers are paying $7 million of it, that doesn't cost them anything. Drew Lock doesn't cost them anything. So they do have the framework if they can put a deal together. But I don't know what that would cost because Aaron Rodgers is – I talked to somebody from another team today that was like, what would it cost you for Aaron Rodgers? I mean, that's a remarkable player that changes the course of your franchise, but it's happened in Denver before, and it'd be wild if it was like a third Hall of Fame quarterback riding off into the sunset in Denver after Elway and Peyton Manning. It'd be pretty cool.
You got to think, right, 3 first-round picks is the starting framework of a deal for Aaron Rodgers, right?
It's got to be that. It's got to be that, and then it's got to be more. And I think because of the way he played, because of, Denver is a legit Super Bowl contender if Aaron Rodgers arrives. And I think that's kind of your starting point in how this is going to go. And again, we need the Packers to make him available, and that doesn't seem to be the case. This standoff, I think, is going to go on for a while because business is obviously business, and they have been talking. That's one side of it. But it appears that this, from the outside looking in, that this is personal in some sense. That adds an added layer to whether it's going to get settled or not.
If they do get Aaron Rodgers going to Denver, as James Palmer is here with us from the NFL Network, you called them a legit Super Bowl contender. Would you even pick them to win the division, or do you still rock and roll with Mahomes and the Chiefs?
Yeah. It's funny. You go like, how would I ever pick against Mahomes?
Right.
It was like going into that Super Bowl. I remember being there and everybody's talking. I mean, I've got a text from Willie McGinnis and he's like, who you got? And I'm like, how do I pick against Mahomes? And then the next text I send him was, how do I pick against your boy Brady? Like, there's just certain guys where you're like, how do I pick against him? Well, it's like, how do you pick against Rodgers? Like, I mean, and what he's able to do. I do think the weapon, I mean, there's Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are just, they're here. Aaron Rodgers, with all the weapons I listed, is kind of right there. And I would say the defense is better in Denver, specifically with the way Vic Fangio coaches defenses. His scheme is now starting to spread throughout the NFL. I don't know if people are really noticing that, right? It causes, if you talk to some of the best offensive minds in football, it causes them fits what Vic Fangio does. So I do think the defense is better, but Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, with the new offensive line they put together, I love the way they've just been like, I don't care about picks. Brett Veach is like, nah, we're going after it every year. And we'll see how far they can push this down the line. But I think I'd still put the Chiefs ahead just because it's a new guy coming in, even though that new guy is Aaron Rodgers.
Is George Paton right now, is he calling the Packers every day, or is it kind of, all right, let's wait until June 1st, where if they are going to trade him financially, it's easier for the Packers to do so?
I think everybody around the league, Zach, knows right now it's kind of like nothing's going to happen in the immediate future. I know that the Broncos are, like I said, they're comfortable with where they are at quarterback. I think if they felt desperate, maybe they call regularly. But I do think George has shown in the short time he's been their general manager, and I think, and I'm not alone in this, I think enough people around the league think he's done a bang-up job, and nobody really is surprised by that, as the last decade people have been trying to get him to be a general manager, is his patience. He waited, with the Kareem Jackson. I'm talking about smaller deals, but this kind of just shows his patience. he lets Kareem Jackson leave and comes back for half the price. He waits out on the Kyle Fuller situation instead of trading for him and brings him in. He waits to see the pass rusher market before he figures out what he wants to do with picking up Von Miller's option. I think he has been a patient general manager that trusts his gut, and I think he's going to kind of wait this and knows this might be a long haul, slow play situation, and I think he's going to kind of use his patience in that sense.
We all know it's a guessing game right now. Everyone's guessing. You obviously have more information than most as we're talking to James Palmer from the NFL Network. Right now, if you had to give me a percentage that Rodgers is somewhere other than Green Bay come week 1 of the 2021 season, whether that's Denver or somewhere else, what would that number be?
I think it's well below 50%. I'm trying to think. I might almost put it at like 30%, 20% he's somewhere else. Just because, if the sides are talking to get something done, that means they're at least communicating, right? I think that is somewhat gives it hope of his return. James Jones on our air, who is not just a former teammate of Aaron Rodgers, is still a close friend, believes it is fixable and salvageable. We know the Packers are trying to do some things to make up for probably, we all could assume, some situations in terms of communications and handling Aaron Rodgers in the past probably wasn't up to snuff with a guy that probably deserved a little bit more in terms of how you were handling him and how you were handling this transition, because really, it's all about how you were going to pass the torch. They had to do it one time and it didn't go great, really, right? Aaron was Jordan Love and Brett Favre was there. And so I just think there is still the aspect that you can massage some of these things and you can make things a little bit different in terms of guaranteed contracts. Money always talks in a sense, but also how you handle the way this goes moving forward. I think also, nobody wants to be pushed out of the building, specifically if you are the MVP of the league and showing up every day with your replacement sitting next to you. That's not a feeling anybody wants, specifically when you're as good as Aaron Rodgers. We've seen really every quarterback not handle this well, and it's been in this situation. I think Aaron does deserve a little bit different treatment, and maybe the Packers can do that and massage that as part of this deal.
What's your read as we talk something other than Aaron Rodgers with James Palmer from the NFL Network? I know that's what everyone's talking about in the NFL these days, but if it's not Rodgers, and yes, it's May 11th in the year of 2021, and I'm saying this, it's Tim Tebow. How about Urban Meyer bringing in Tim Tebow? It's Tebow time, baby.
I knew it was coming. So get this. I was in Jacksonville for the week of the draft. All week. I was treated wonderfully.
Besides Trevor Lawrence not throwing a football to you, that was weak on Trevor Lawrence's part, let me say.
Don't dog him. Maybe Trevor will throw me a pass someday. Maybe we talked about it beforehand. I don't know. But anyway, I will say this. That afternoon when that broke, I'm standing, our NFL Network setup's there to go for me and all our draft coverage. And then there's like locals right down the line of doing their live shots, and their brains were exploding. It was like Tim Tebow, like they could care less that this was Urban Meyer in his first NFL draft. They were getting a generational quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And I talked to Shad Khan a couple hours before the draft, and he's like, this is an epic day for our organization. This is the biggest moment in Jacksonville Jaguars history. All that went out the window when Tim Tebow's name was mentioned in that city. And it's just such a lightning rod. I find it I know being there the whole week, what Urban's trying to do. And he's trying to create a winning culture in an organization that has lost more than anybody else since they've been around. Now, the idea of creating a winning culture, I do get. And Tim is a winner, and he is, a maniac about preparation and all sorts of things. There are people in the building that are not super happy about the thought of Tim Tebow coming. And there are distractions that come with it. So I do think this needs to be managed, and I think there needs to be conversations, and there probably are, about how this is going to go down. I know that, Urban just said today with Chris Collinsworth that he has make a decision soon. He hasn't signed them, but the workouts have gone well. But the workouts, a lot of them happened a while ago. It's just, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because I don't know if this is going to be more positive or more of a distraction. And I do know I'm not the only person that thinks that.
Well, here's my question with the relationship that is there. If they bring him in, I don't even know if he'll make the team, but is Urban, and a little bit different when you're in college compared to the NFL, is he going to be able to cut Tim Tebow if it gets to that point, just with his personal feelings and his relationship that he has with him?
And that's why I look at it and go, and to me, in terms of all the skills Tim Tebow has, probably his best one is being like a motivational force in the building, right? I mean, I don't think he's not their best tight end. He's not their best pass catching tight end. He's not their best blocking tight end. He's not any of those things, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the best part of it, why doesn't he come in as a consultant or part of your staff?
Yeah.
Or that's what I mean. And then some capacity of that to have that winning mindset around you, because you're right. If he doesn't play up to snuff, Urban has to show the rest of the team. Because what is it?
No
the
question.
Other 89 guys that are out there at camp, they've been around the league. They haven't been out of the league for 9 years. They're going to know if he can play or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if he stays on the team and they know he can't play, that's not the message you want to be sending to the rest of your guys.
James Palmer, my favorite NFL Network superstar. We appreciate it. Thanks so much, my friend.
Can you get like a lower graph? Can that be my graphic moving forward? Because I see it says James Palmer NFL Network. Can it be like exactly what you just said moving forward?
Zach Gelb will throw the football to you, unlike Trevor Lawrence.
Hey, I did get a toaster out of the deal. I got the Trevor Lawrence toaster out of being there, which is remarkable for $299.95.
Well, how about that? There's James Palmer. We'll take a timeout. Great stuff with him. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Let's get to an update. Here's Rich Ackerman.